Welcome back, everyone. We'll kick up on Module 3 for Study Guide Computer Science. So question 1, we're going to jump right into it. Yesterday you installed a new game on your computer. When you ran the computer, the notice and the application was running very slow. After you exited the game and restarted it, you received an error message saying insufficient memory or disk space. Check your hard drive and saw that you had more than 250 gigabytes of free space. So what should you check next in the task manager? Right, the first option, amount of processor being used. Well, because it says insufficient memory or disk space, so that means doesn't mean processor, right? So next, you have amount of disk space being used by the application, which said you already checked your hard drive and found out you have 250 gigabytes of free space, so that would be eliminated. Programs that are running, doesn't matter. It's going to tell you how much space you have or how much. You can check that, but it wouldn't be the best answer. All right. So what you would do, since you've already checked for, it says insufficient memory or disk space. You've already checked the disk space, so now you want to check for insufficient memory by the amount of RAM that's available. Right? The correct answer is amount of available RAM. On to question 2. Gina is upgrading your computer with a new processor. She installs the processor into a motherboard and adds the cooling system. She powers up the computer and it begins to boot, but then shuts down. What could be the cause of the problem? So the first option, processor is not seated properly. If your processor is not seated properly, you're not going to get anything happening on that computer. Processor is not compatible, same thing. You're not going to get any processing. You're not going to boot up. You're not going to have an operating system. Next, computer is overclocked. That could happen, and it will shut down, but it will give you a warning, but you wouldn't know unless it's someone else's computer. But that's not the best answer. The best answer is thermal paste was not used. So basically, if you don't use thermal paste, it's going to go and it's going to not seal correctly. So anytime when you have overheating issues, you can pretty much rest assured that your computer is going to shut down when it reaches a temperature. So what happens is in BIOS, there's a set temperature that it tells the computer to shut down. And one of the hardest things about troubleshooting an overheating computer is that as it shuts down, it may cool down to just beneath that threshold temperature. And then when it shuts down, it goes ahead and restarts. And as it restarts, it heats back up. So when it hits that temperature again, it does the same thing. So it'll shut down and then restart. But if you just shut it down and restart it, let it sit and cool off for a while, it'll boot back up. But as soon as it hits that threshold temperature, it's going to shut down again. So correct answer for number 2 is thermal paste was not used. And that can be found on between page 161 and page 162 in the text. All right. On to question 3. When populating a motherboard with DIMM modules, what configuration option will not work? First option is mixing memory speeds. Same thing, in newer computers, you can do that. It will work, but the only thing is you'll be wasting money because you'll spend more on the faster speed. But if you have one slower speed memory in there, all your RAM is going to go to that slowest speed. It'll work, but you just paid more for RAM. You could just got the cheaper ones and match them up. Using 2 different manufacturers' memories, same thing. The manufacturer doesn't matter as long as it's the correct memory chip. It will work. Leaving a slot unpopulated. So if you have an empty memory slot now, the computer can automatically read that, and it'll still work. The last option and the correct option is mixing unbuffered and registered memory, and that can be found on page 147 in the text. Sorry, that's 117, page 117 in the text. All right. So we got mixing unbuffered and registered memory. The next on the question 4, hybrid processors that can process 32 bits or 64 bits are known by what term? First answer is your times 86 processor. That is incorrect. That is what they call, for whatever reason, 32 bits processor is times 86. All right. Next thing you have is your Itanium processors. That is incorrect. That's just a name brand processor. Then you have your dual mode processor. That is also incorrect. The correct answer is your times 86, which is a 32-bit processor, and your 64-bit processor, which is 64-bit processor. They are hybrid processors and are capable of processing 32 bits and 64 bits. So once again, that is the correct answer. And for number 4, you can find that on page 117. So let's go back to page 3, or question 3. That is on page 147. Question 4 can be found on page 117. Apologize for that mix-up. My handwriting is terrible. All right. So on to question 5. DIMMs used in servers can provide additional reliability by checking for and correcting errors if they use what specific technology? All right. First possible answer is EDB. That is incorrect. Next is parity. That is also incorrect. And then quad channel is incorrect as well. So for a simplified answer, your ECC, that is the correct answer. And that can be found on page 118 in the Notes 1 section, on page 118 in the text. For number 6, what type of RAM is typically installed onto a motherboard and loses data rapidly, requiring it to be refreshed often? So first one is your SRAM. That is incorrect. Your flash RAM. That is also incorrect. Your CMOS RAM, or CMOS RAM, that has to deal with the information of the motherboard, so that is also incorrect. So the correct answer would be your DRAM, and that information can be found on page 117 as well. So question 7. A processor housing that contains more than one processor is referred to as what term? First is your multi-house processor. That is incorrect. Your multi-processor platform. That's also incorrect. Your multi-thread processor is not the correct answer either. But your multi-core processor, that is the correct answer. The multi-core actually has multiple processors. Your multi-thread is one processor that can handle multiple threads at one time, and the number of threads tells you how many threads can be handled, but it's not. It's only one processor, right? Multi-processor platform is just a platform that uses multi-processor software or whatever that's capable of using that, or virtualization or what have you. All right, and number 7 can be found also on page 117. For question 8, what is the general name of the processor feature that AMD calls hypertransport? First possible answer is virtualization, and that is incorrect. Virtualization is actually using a computer within a computer or a machine, whether it's a server or whatnot, having virtual machines or VMs built to emulate a whole other computer within one computer. Right? That's what virtualization does. Multiprocessor platform, that is incorrect, and so is multi-core processing. So when in the general name of processing, AMD calls hypertransport, it's called multi-threading, like we said in question 7. Multi-threading is the correct answer, and you can find this information once again on page 117. All right, so on to question number 9. Today's DIMMs.
I'm not sure.
Today's DIMMs use what size data path? 32-bit is the incorrect answer. 128-bit, that's also incorrect. So is 16-bit. Your correct answer for today's DIMM is 64-bit. Sorry about that. The good old Amazon picked me up. Number 9 can also be found on page 136. So for question 10 and the last question for module 3, what can a DIMM use to hold data and amplify a signal just before the data is written to the module? Your CAS, that is incorrect. Parity has to do with memory as well, but it's not correct, and so is ECC, your error checking uh, uh, for ECC. But the correct answer is registers, and you can find that on page 139. All right, so that is, let's see what we have here. Yep, that's all 10. Let me go over these page numbers. I think I got them mixed up. So for number 2, it can be found between 161 and page 162. For question 3, page 147. Question 4, page 117. Question 5, page 138 in figure 3-31. Question 6, page 118 in the notes 1 area. Question 7, page 117. Question 8, page 117. Question 9, page 136, and question 10, page 139. All right, so have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next module.